For those of you last week who nodded off after 2 days of G7 coverage where the supposed leaders of the G7 countries waffled about climate change for 2 days. I mean, as if human beings can do much about wind and rain. However, this week something has woken them up, and once again it's a force from the Far East. China has said that the world shouldn't be controlled, and is not controlled, by small countries. And by small countries it meant United States, England, France, Western leaders basically. Now, of course, they are small by comparison to China, and China's message was very clear, is that policy, economic structure, and the way the world's markets are governed and operated is no longer in the hands of the previously considered first world economies, and that China has something much bigger in store. Now, if you look at the figures, it's quite obvious. Here in Britain, £134 billion worth of investment exists in infrastructure and stocks at the top level, and that's all from Chinese investors. That's happened very, very quickly. So by China saying that, it's dealt a blow, and the leaders are paying attention to it. The shift in conversation today is quite obvious. So when looking at last year, the Chinese government suspended the trade deal between Shanghai Stock Exchange and the London Stock Exchange, which used to be called Stock Connect, and there's no imminent plan to restart it. That means that the Chinese government wants to keep its own stocks and shares inside its own borders, but it has other plans for London Stock Exchange, because although it's not owned by the Chinese, and it never will be, there's so much influence, because £134 billion worth of investment, that's not just schools and transport infrastructure, it's also shareholdings in publicly listed companies. So given that the Chinese government now has waded in exactly at the right time when the G7 summit is on, and the Chinese government, like all communist governments, know very well how to do propaganda and how to get the maximum impact. So they've come in, G7's in place, and they're saying that the world shouldn't be controlled by small entities. That's a very clever piece of PR. Who knows where that might lead public listed companies and their stock prices in future.